Redditarian. Kindly subscribe and hit the bell button for more updates. What's the most baddest thing you've accidentally said in the heat of the moment? I'll never forget the moment a family walked into the local pub I was working at while I was working. This big king of the grill bald alpha patriarch dad type and his wife and kids came through. I said welcome, where would you like to sit? And he snapped back, well, a table would be nice. And without missing a beat at all I replied, actually we usually sit on the chairs here. I'll never forget the satisfaction of that moment or the look on his face, haha. You are the alpha dad now. I worked in cell phone sales for a few years and a woman came in with a fairly new flip phone. This was 2018, we just still sold them. She was complaining cause one of the sides of the screen was dangling off and said she didn't do anything, it just snapped, and demanded a new phone. I told her, that looks like physical damage and we don't have any coverage for that, since you didn't buy a phone protection warranty. She insisted it wasn't physical damage and the phone just sucks and broke / itself. She started freaking out and calling me all kinds of names and swinging her phone in my face, and then the top half of the phone literally snapped off and landed on the counter in front of me. I just looked her in the eyes and said, well, that was definitely physical damage. She lost her shit at my comment, and it was weirdly satisfying. I didn't realize the nature of my comment when I wrote it, but in high school, one of my teachers did end of the year anonymous evaluations. Everyone hated him, and I understood why, but I still did well in his class. I wrote, I don't have any critiques about your teaching, but I think you should work on being a better person. Dude, how old were you? That line would have definitely destroyed me if I had been your teacher. When I was 12, my older sister had a boy over for Thanksgiving dinner. She dated lots of douches, but this guy took the cake. Big, brash, annoying dickhead who was rude to her and basically everyone. As we sat down for dinner, before we were about to say what we were thankful for, he says inaudible more and grunts, "How looks like I'm seated at the head of the table. Must be important," with a huge shit-eating grin. Without pausing, I gesture to my dad seated opposite him and said, actually my dad is at the head of the table. You're the asshole. My mom scolded me for swearing at the table, but years later told me her and my dad thought it was hilarious. Forensic biology professor brings out a fresh human brain as a surprise to a stunned class. You have no idea what I had to go through to get this. The skull. The janitor stopped by at the wrong time. I was around 17 or 18 and getting my first filling at the dentist. They pumped me up with nitrous oxide for pain and to help me relax during the procedure. Dentist came back and asked me, how are you feeling? All I said was I don't, and he lost his shit and cracked up for what seemed like 20 minutes before he could pull himself together. I also started cracking up because of the laughing gas and his laugh was infectious. So we were both just sitting there in the room laughing and all his assistants came by and were very confused, lol. I worked at Target back in college in a stocking job where we had to be there at like 4 to 5 am to unload trucks. One morning I overslept a bit and walked to the unpacking line about 10 minutes late eating a breakfast bar. The boss stormed over and started loudly berating me in front of everyone for being late. As he was going on, I was listening and taking bites of the bar without much expression, mainly because I was so damn tired. It finally bothered him that I was disrespectfully chewing during the yelling and he stopped mid-sentence, held out his hand, and said, "Give me that damn thing." It just happened that I only had one bite left, so I took it, handed him the wrapper, and said thanks with a mouthful of food. He paused and started laughing at the ridiculous response to his bitching. We were buddies after that. Not me, my daughter. This boy at school called her retarded. Her response? No, I'm autistic. I don't know what your F***ing excuse is. She was in 6th grade. I was pretty shocked when I got that phone call. She usually doesn't say things to people. I'm a writer, and I do a bit of stand-up comedy. As such, people tend to introduce me to new people as a _comedian, _writer, etc. So I was outside a bar smoking with a friend of a friend. He then introduced to one of his friends. His friend was dressed like Liam Gallagher from Oasis and seemed to exude a bit of a cocky, sneery manner. The introduction went thusly. Friend of friend. Mr. Gallagher, this is Writer of Wrongs. He's a comedian. Mr. Gallagher looks me up and down. Comedian A. Does that mean you think you're funny? Writer of Wrongs. No, it means everyone else does. I literally do not know where it came from. I didn't think about the response. It just came out. And it is hands down the greatest thing I've ever said. I was accused of being passive aggressive. I replied, which part sounded passive? I don't ever want to come across as passive. My take on this is I'm aggressive. At work at a company meeting, someone was presenting something cool they volunteered to work on and finished. They then explained things they thought they could do better in a self-deprecating way, and a bunch of other people started railing into his work with petty criticism. It was definitely good work, though, and a thought just hit me, so I blurted it out. Sometimes done is the best feature. A bunch of people laughed, and then the criticism stopped. People gave him kudos and we moved on. Not really badass, but I was surprised this thought somehow came out fully formed, like it was some phrase I've been saying for decades. I guess I was just realizing how many people don't finish anything they start. So done suddenly seemed like a pretty damn good feature. Give the man some credit for finishing the damn thing. This is actually really inspirational. I'm a perfectionist and often hate stuff I work on so much I abandon it. I'm going to try and internalize this message. I already posted here, but I just thought of another story. There was this one extremely attractive girl in my COMM 101 class in college. One day, for a project where we interviewed other students, I was partnered with her. We ended up not finishing our questions in class, so I asked her if I could meet her somewhere to finish interviewing her. She said yes. Fast forward to the next day, I meet her after her dance group finishes rehearsal. I knock through the last few questions, and the final one which I ask is, what do you perceive the future to hold? She replies, I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight. I have no idea what the future holds. So I say, well, if you don't know what you're having for dinner, do you want to have dinner with me? She laughed, said yes, and though we only hooked up that night, I still look back on that day as one of the best dating stories I've had yet. Finally one that doesn't end with we've now been married for 15 years. I worked at a bookstore and a customer asked me how often do the periodicals come out. I deadpanned periodically, and he asked to speak to my manager. Worth it. I used to work in a bookstore. Smart ass answers to dumb questions were the best. Customer, where is your non-fiction section? Me, what topic are you looking for? We have lots of non-fiction. Customer, just your regular non-fiction. Me, biographies, history, computers, gardening. Customer, just regular non-fiction. Me, see that sign over there that says fiction? The entire rest of the store. I had amazing job security. I'm late to the party, but oh well. I work in waste management. I'm also a rather small person, like, they don't make clothes at Old Navy in my size small. I was wheeling a stack of drums out to our loading dock, navigating pretty much purely on instinct, since I couldn't see over or around them. Lo and behold, there's someone there chatting with the shipping people. I run straight into him. I'm surrounded by everyone in shipping, some fairly big dudes, and I feel amazingly embarrassed. I leaned around the drums to look at the guy I hit, and without even thinking, said, the F*** you want me to do, see through back quote M. Everyone burst out laughing, and the guy even opened the door to the dock for me. Every time I see him now he pretends to duck. Me and my girlfriend at the time were having a discussion about her going back to school. She kept putting it off every semester, and one day she got angry at me trying to get her to actually go back, not just talk about it, and she yelled Rome wasn't built in a day. And I responded, yeah, but it was built. And a decade later I still think of that. At a party a few years back, someone stole my friend's purse. Her boyfriend found the guys who took it and got it back for her, but he was still in an angry drunken rage and was continuing to escalate the situation when he was well outnumbered. My friend finds me and says, I'm afraid boyfriend is about to get into a fight. I need your help. Stop him, please. I stand up and I tell her, I can't promise you I can stop him from fighting, but I can promise you I won't let him lose. before walking off to find him. Ultimately, no fight actually broke out, and I didn't realize that I had basically said a cheesy one-liner until after the fact, when my friend told me how intense that line was. I didn't mean for it to sound so dramatic, I just wanted to let her know I wouldn't let him get his ass kicked. I didn't mean to make it sound like I was about to demolish 3 guys by myself, like I'm some sort of action hero. IDK about badass, but years ago I worked at a Hard Rock cafe, and we often had pre-shift server meetings outdoors on a patio, and my wild boss was droning on about us selling more overpriced plastic cups. I was staring off at the spinning globe on top of the building that says save the planet on it. I interrupted my boss by blurting out, if Hard Rock is trying to save the planet, why do we waste so much paper? Which was really directed at my managers, who had a hard-on for printing out stupid memos. They somehow didn't realize it was about them specifically, and passed the comment up the food chain, which ended up resulting in the entire company changing their payroll system to paperless, globally. As a reward I was given a pin shaped like a light bulb that said bright idea on it. Thanks I guess. We had a overly dramatic neighbor who always claimed she was sick and dying. My mom came to see my kids in the middle of battling stage 4 lung cancer. The neighbor pulled her. Hi Rita, so glad to see you. Did Jason tell you that I'm dying? My mom looked right at her, smiled and said me too, dear, but not today. Never more proud of her. This one had a little setup, but I think it's funny enough to share. At a family vacation, my grandmother was giving me grief for not remembering her birthday. I've never been good with birthdays. After telling me it was the password to her iPhone, she wanted me to take a picture with it, which is why I needed the password. While she was distracted, I opened up the settings, changed her password to my birthday, and then set her phone down. Q 15 minutes later, she's trying to get into her phone and it's not working. Suspecting mischief, she grumpily asks me if I've changed the password to her phone in front of our entire family. I admit that I did. Well, what is it? She asked impatiently. It's my birthday. She sat there in stunned silence for about 15 seconds, not being able to remember my birthday before our family exploded laughing. Was a good time. Biggest reverse card devil mayo. Draw for or admit UF asterisk CKED up haha. A friend of mine was giving me shit while we were all bowling. Off the cuff I yelled at him, "You're adopted. Your parents don't even like you." He laughed, because, friends. Like 3 hours later it hit me, and I turned around and said, "Holy shit XX. You are adopted. I completely forgot. I'm so sorry dude." Which he thought made the whole situation even funnier. I was eating McDonald's with a few friends and I started choking. The only thing I managed to say in the whole ordeal was "I'm McChockin'." F asterisk CKING gold. How'd he die? I dunno. He choked to death, while his friends pissed themselves laughing so damn hard. A long time ago I was walking down a side street in a medium-sized town with my girlfriend. A car was parked ahead, with the front of the car facing us as we approached. I could see 2 kids, maybe in their late teens, and instantly could tell they were likely going to say something as my GF was rather attractive. As soon as we come up next to them, I hear "Hey baby, ditch the zero and come hang with a hero." I could feel my blood boil, but I kept my cool and calmly said, "Sorry buddy, I'm not gay, and don't call my girlfriend a zero." The dude's friend started laughing at him, and my girlfriend made a sarcastic crying face. Then we both started to laugh. Around the time I was 12, I was at a family party with my dad and aunts/uncles. My dad told me that one of my uncles owned several bars. My response? Oh, it's good that he got into a business that he knows something about. I had no idea what I really was saying. I thought I was giving him a compliment. Got to work one morning. My chosen football team had thrashed my boss's chosen team. I gave him a load of shit for it. Humorously, of course. My boss is great. He gave me some shit back and told me to do a stock take on all items we have beginning with the letter C. I pointed at him and said, 1. Luckily, he took it the correct way and laughed a lot. It took me way too long to figure out that you were calling him a cunt. Well done. There's no way you're this much of an asshole naturally. You must go home and practice. I said this to a coworker who was throwing a fit and bullying a quieter coworker because he was pissed off. He had a habit of just being a giant douche anytime things didn't go his way. This comment pissed him off so much he just stormed into his office and stayed there the rest of the day. Win for the rest of us. He was in there practicing some more. This was back in my junior year of college. At the beginning of the semester I was introducing myself to my very intimidating biochemistry professor. Guy was a genius, but also a hard ass. Students were all terrified to ask him questions because he was known for grilling people, and if they hadn't made enough effort beforehand he'd send them out of his office to learn on their own. As I walked into his office he was sorting through some boxes and made a really sarcastic comment regarding stuffing me in the box and shipping it off somewhere. He looked up for my response and I just blurted out without thinking I wouldn't mind going somewhere nice. Dude laughed so hard it actually startled me a little. We got along pretty well for the remainder of the semester, so it all worked out really well. It's amazing what a little laughter can do to ease tension. Long story short, my friend would share my sexcapades with other people, which I would rather he didn't. Got fed up and ended up blurting out, just because you don't have your own stories to share, doesn't mean you have to share mine. About 25 years ago, I was in grade 9 and my parents bought me a pair of Air Maximum. I'm a female, but I had picked a pair of Air Maximum that were supposed to be for males, because I preferred the color of the shoes. I was super pumped to get those shoes. We didn't have lots of money, and it was a pretty extravagant purchase. Anyway, I was at our local shopping center and I ran into a group of guys I went to high school with. They were a real bunch of assholes that thrived on dumping on other people. One of the guys had on the same pair of shoes and said to me, "Do you know you're wearing men's shoes?" To which I quickly replied then, "Why the fuck are you wearing them?" The other guys pissed themselves laughing and it still stands out in my mind after all these years. Man, that was ice cold. I bet his friends still bring that one up. If I was best man at the guy's wedding I'd probably even sneak a reference into the speech. I was the lawyer in this criminal case arising out the Standing Rock events. That morning, some Lakota people had given us this traditional blessing to wish us well for the trial, and there were 5 to 7 activists sitting in the courtroom to watch and support us. It happened that there was a certain digital document that I needed before the jury got back from a break, and we didn't know just when the break would be over. I remember turning to the supporters holding up a thumb drive and telling them exactly what I needed from the office across the street and how to get it. I held out the thumb drive and with all the intensity of an ancient general sending his troops into battle said, "Fastest runner, go now." This tiny little young woman grabbed the thumb drive and hauled ass. She got back before the jury returned. Good for you. How'd the trial go? After the jury walked in, they gave him a piece of their pizza